I'm handsome, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat. They know it.
Pure exhilaration, feel it when you leave the earth. 100% adrenaline rush is what we know it's worth. If nothing else.
Key, what's up, my guy?
What's going on, my bro? How you doing?
So the audience might be wondering, thinking to themselves, there's somebody missing. So I'll tell you guys, we parted ways. Joe is no longer a part of the show. He's decided to go a different direction. Bless him in all his ventures and what he wanted to do in his life. And I thank God for the contribution. I want to start there that he's had on the show. And you can't discount that, Keegan.
No.
You know, sometimes the journey is not always for everybody to travel it the whole way with you.
Yeah, no question.
And what we must do sometimes is when somebody doesn't travel the whole journey with you, you don't throw them away.
Mm-hmm.
You praise them for helping you get to the point that you got to.
Yes, sir.
So Joe put in an awful lot of work, an awful lot of man hours to help us get to this point, to help us to keep this show going. And Joe wanted us to keep the show going while he went in a different direction. Because again, just because we're saying different things or have different ideologies doesn't mean we're not going for the same goal.
No question.
And I think, with Joe, us coming together, he was a bridge to the place that we're about to go to now.
Yeah.
And I want to say, Joe, if you're watching this, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for giving the show its start, to giving the show its blast of energy that it needed to get out the top. And we appreciate you, bro. So I just wanted to give your flowers now. And that's a lesson for, everybody in the world that, we don't have to become the op. Just because we're not working with each other in a business venture. Our friendship is still intact. Yeah. We still cool. I still love his family. I still love his son. We just ain't doing this together because he got something else to do. What are your thoughts on it, Keegan?
No, I want to say thank you because he gave me a seat at the table. That's one. And two, he has authorship in the genesis of this.
Absolutely.
Right? He helped start this and he gave us a bridge to kind of get where we want to go. So thank you, Joe, for what you did and what you will continue to do for the culture going forward as well in your own way. So no, I agree with everything you said, 100%.
Absolutely. So with that being said, in life, when things do happen, you must move forward.
No doubt.
And that is I think that's the mantra going with the mindset that must be had in our as black men and just men in general and people as general, that things happen, shit happens.
Yeah.
Shit happens suddenly. Mm-hmm. I think the
they call it life.
Absolutely. The CEO from GE a while back, I forgot his name. He said, "Change before you have to."
Jack Welch.
Yep. He said, "Change before you have change. Go ahead and change."
Yeah.
Before you see it coming, change. Pivot. Don't worry about. Leave the emotions at the door. Mm-hmm. Check yourself at the door and change, because this podcast is for the culture.
Yeah.
And what we decided to do, and me and Keegan, me and you was working on a documentary actually in 2019. Mm-hmm. And we called it The Deep Surface. Mm-hmm. And we already had it in the pipeline. We already had some scripts and some things written already about it, and we just didn't do anything with it for whatever reason. So, man, I was just pondering. Once it changed, I knew the name for me and Joe had to change because he was no longer a podcast. So, man, I just prayed. I prayed for a weekend. I prayed all weekend, not this weekend, but weekend prior to, just for God to give me something that makes sense, that can be meaningful going forward. And the deep surface kept coming up, and the people that lived in the deep shall surface. And what that means is a double entendre. It's a two-part meaning. When you think of the deep surface, well, that don't make sense, but think about it. What we're looking at is black folks, people disenfranchised, people have been marginalized, not looked upon, not given opportunities. They've been living in the deep of America for a long time, and it's time for us to surface and show our face.
No question.
It's time for you to hear our conversations. It's time for us to have hard conversations, thoughtful conversations. We don't want problems. We don't want to quarrel with you. We don't want anything, but we have to tell the truth. We have to put the truth on the table.
Yeah.
It has to be something that that matters. The deep surface. There's blood is in the water. There's blood that's been spilled. Somebody got to speak for that blood, Keegan.
No question.
What do you think about the new name, the deep surface? What do you take from that, Keegan?
Well, I love it because you mentioned the phrase double entendre, right? So we live that all the time. Talk about jumbo shrimp.
Of course.
Right? So we live in those particular times, but it does have meaning that's more than just trivial phrases.
Of course.
Right? So you do talk about people who are marginalized, but I also believe in let's get a discussion going that gets below the waterline. We stay at surface level topics all the time.
We do.
Let's get below the waterline. So talk about things that actually make the subject what it is. Let's get past smoke, get to fire, right? Let's get past the pain, get past the symptom, get to the cause. And then let's start talking about solutions.
Absolutely.
And from our idea factory, right? So we're not talking about we have all the answers. Let's start trying to give people a chance to think about, okay, this situation is going on in my life that they're talking about. Do I have a solution for? Or where can I start building an idea for a solution? That has to go below the surface. Get off the top level. Get below the line. That's what I think about when I think about the deep surface.
And I think, and it's still getting below the line, and it's still in love, and there's some hard things to talk about. Yeah. I think we're going to deal with some hard things on this podcast and it's not going to be me talking at you. And we've tried to do that even in our other episodes, not talking at you, but talking with you. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference between talking with somebody, having a conversation with them, because let's keep it a buck. We struggle. A lot of black men, we have a lot of struggles that we can't talk about. Mm-hmm. We don't have the license in America to talk about a lot of the things we struggle with. See, I'm not just talking about how much money you can make or how what your status is in America or how do people see you. I'm really talking about how do you see yourself and how do you want God to see you as a man. That's the real nuts and bolts of what we want to get to. That's the core. That's the macro conversation. How do you want to see? Because that goes to being a leader in your home, being a leader in your community, being a leader at your church, being a leader in the workplace. And what does that look like for a black man? Because our story has particularly been told by other people in their way. We've been stereotyped and we didn't get an invite to the table when y'all was writing those stereotypes about us. You just put it out in the media. So with that being said, man, and that's what the deep surface means to me. That's what it looks like. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to talk about deep sports too. I don't want to abandon that because I do want to make sure that we still have that men's cave, that man cave talk to as well. Because a lot of talking, a lot of deep talking sometimes can you don't want to deal with that all the time. And I get it. You need a break from dealing with all the mess sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you can make sense of the mess.
Yes.
We need to feed that, right? But I will also say something you said earlier about struggle. We do struggle. And we need to talk about those struggles because people fake being okay.
Yeah.
You can't fake being depressed.
No, you cannot.
You can't fake dealing with emotional health.
That's right.
So people fake being okay all the time when they actually are struggling with something. I want people to understand I struggle with stuff. I seek help. Let's talk about those things, right? Because we got to help people get out of their own way sometimes, because you do paint a picture when you are going through something because you don't think it's okay to talk about it. We have been stereotyped in the way that we can't talk about our struggles emotionally, mentally. We got to start doing that. People are out here very unhealthy, bro.
It very is unhealthy. And I think a lot of black men died in an alarming rate early. Mm-hmm. Not even talking about gunshots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cholesterol. It just and a lot of this stuff surfaces from stress.
No doubt.
Because watch this. Men don't get to talk about the stress they're under.
No question.
If your woman's stressing you out, there's only so much commentary you can say. And if you're a man, you ain't gonna go out talking about crazy about your queen.
No. But she's not the first stressor I would talk about.
Yeah, I'm just saying, men. I'm just saying that's an example that men, and not even talking bad. It's just the stress that you deal with trying to provide, trying to be this, trying to be that. And especially if you throw kids in the mix, trying to be that. So. And then throw society in the mix, and you know how they look at you anyway. So that's a lot to navigate for men in general. But if you want to drill it down to black men in particular, we deal with struggles silently. Black men struggle silently, and it's hard. it is hard, and which is why we make decisions we make sometimes, which is why you can see a plain angry look on my face all the time, which is why sometimes that if I see another black man, I don't really speak to him.
So for a solution, men start helping men.
Come on.
Right? Let's stop let's stop mean mugging each other. See somebody sitting at the bar by themselves, go say what's up. Introduce yourself. Let's have a convo. Let's connect a little bit.
Tim, stop mean mugging me, bro.
Yeah, you know.
Y'all, that's our producer back there, Tim. Hey, we gotta listen, we gotta I wanna say this. I wanna say this. We have one of the most talented producers that you guys are gonna get a look at, Shot by Jones. I want to give him some love while we here too, because he's a part of our new infrastructure. And it's important too, man. I want to go with infrastructure. You have to build, in order to be successful, I believe you have to build infrastructure first.
Yes. And it starts with people.
It does.
It starts with people, not things. People.
Absolutely. And Tim, I wanted to get Tim too, because Tim, I know he's keen on having excellent work. Period, point blank. He's not going to put anything corny out.
Gotcha.
He's not going to put his name to it.
We already heard that.
Yeah.
He already drilled one of our people.
Because this guy said that Nas and Jay-Z verse on DJ Khaled album was trash. Come on. Listen, bro.
No, he got a high bar.
He does.
His threshold and his bar is high, you know, and I want to be able to meet that as well as part of this particular podcast, no doubt.
And I think and for us, man, in dealing with what we're trying to deal with and bringing something new to the market, what does that look like? That looks like this. Let's put infrastructure in place. We want to be, I call it the core method. You remember me and Keegan and a couple other guys, we created a nonprofit called The Core. And some of you seen Dunn talking on our podcast last night. He runs the sports division, but there's an overall hierarchy that's in the core, was on the board, and Keegan was on the members of the board, and I was too as well. Tim, you came to a meeting too, I think, one time. And the acronym for the core method that we call it is cultivating others to reach excellence. That is the core value of what we want our show to be. Not cultivating me to be famous, not cultivating me to look at me, although I like to look at me. I do that. I'm going to keep it a buck. God gave me confidence.
Hey.
Now listen.
Shine your own light, bro.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that came to me 8 or 9 years ago. And I'm starting to see all the things that God's given me. He's drilled it down all the way to this. And I didn't have to go look for any other ideas. I didn't have to go look for nothing. It was already in my arsenal. That's why when you pivot and you keep moving forward, some of the things that God gave you previously be waiting for you in the future. I didn't know that this would be waiting for me in the future. There was a thought then, and then he blew the breath of life into me,
no doubt.
to the idea. So what I mean, man, where did the core method come from? It came from Christ.
Talk about that a little bit more.
To cultivate means to prepare.
Okay.
Christ prepared. He went to prepare a place for us. Before he went there to prepare a place for us, he did it down here through his examples, through how he treated people. I ain't talking about just the fact that he did miracles. I'm talking about his presence. I'm talking about the fact that he sat with people. I'm talking about the fact that he set up the church actually while he was here, which means in Greek ekklesia, called out ones, to be out and about, which is why this podcast exists. I like the church. I believe the church has its place, but I believe now in this generation, on YouTube, online, on things like that, we have to meet men where they are. Because let's keep it a buck. There's not a lot of men in the church right now.
I will say it. I can follow you.
What I mean by that, there's men in church, but you see mostly women is what I'm saying. But they're somewhere. So we have to, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be in the church. I'm just saying that there's been that disconnect for a long time. Spiritually, there's been an attack on black men for a long time. It has. And I can only speak from my experience, just being disconnected from things, and I grew up in the church. Man, listen, can I go there?
Go. You're amongst family.
I thought I would never go back to church.
Really?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wow.
I grew up and I experienced things that I never talked about it, never became an event. I never vented to nobody about. I just seen things growing up, and I'm not going to go into details because people are involved. My family's involved, who people I love. But I grew up in a place to where church was all we did. And when that hurt came, real live hurt, I was like, what? So this don't match up with this. What is going on?
Yeah.
So it didn't match up for me, and it caused a rift, Keegan. It caused something that I was like, yo, I'm not into this no more. So I began to go this way. But I didn't realize that created something in me that shunned off a lot of things that I probably needed because of that hurt. It wasn't just me not going back to church. It shut me down.
I got you.
I was no longer talking about anything to anybody. I wasn't breaking down crying in front of nobody. Not that you should all the time. I'm just saying I just wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
So that caused a rift for me.
Okay.
How do you feel about the state of, and I know I was talking about the core method and I went here, but what do you think about the method of the core?
Well, I think it has a Christian undertone, right? So you're talking about cultivating others to reach excellence. So that has a discipleship feel, right? If I take a young man or a young woman and mentor them, pour into them, put seed in the soil for them, and then water and then prune and help that person become excellent, then that's discipleship in and of itself, right? There's mentorship there. And so I believe there's a Christian undertone there. So that's a spiritual piece to it. I think secularly, based on your target, I think it's a cultural play, right? Of course. How can we impact each other? I said earlier about the solution, men helping men, right? Let's not require someone else to lift a man up when we can do it ourselves. Of
course.
Right? So how can we be our brother's keeper?
Absolutely.
Right? Our kinsman's redeemer.
Yeah.
Right? So all those things to me start in a spiritual space that comes out of Christianity, that comes out of what God spoke to our people that wrote out that Bible, right? So I agree with that in terms of what the core represents as it being a Christian ideology, for lack of a better term. Yeah.
And I think, and wrapping it up, not wrapping it up, but just putting it in a bowl, that's what it means. We want to cultivate people to reach excellence. Yeah. Not only people, but ourselves too as well. I think whenever you speak to somebody, the most accountability is on you. Not to be perfect, but to be blameless. Yeah. But treat people with respect. I think you can always do that. I think, even in your commentary, what we're doing right now, you can treat the listener with respect. I can recall being in my bed dealing with anxiety at night at times, and it's hit me so hard, and I think to myself, man, is anybody else going through this?
Am I by myself?
And you start you start messing with yourself. You start talking to yourself. You start dealing with all type of stuff that, like, oh God, why am I doing this? Yeah. And you feel bad. And then you start thinking, I'm the only person in the world that's dealing with this shit.
And part of that's because when you look at social media, everybody presents they got going on. So I think that's one reason why faith is so important. Because when you go through those struggles, those trials, tribulations, you come back to your origin story, and you know where your value is at. You know who you was created by. You know who you belong to. You know what you was created for. When you find your purpose, so that's why I think faith is so important. Because when you go through that storm, that anxiety, that depression, go back to your origin story. Remember who you are. Remember whose you are.
That's correct.
And that will get you back to where you need to be as far as having the ground firmly planted beneath your feet. Not on sand, but on concrete.
Because it takes time for process.
It does. It does.
Whenever you're in a process or you going through something or you dealing with something, you don't get over it overnight. Yeah. And I think we're such in a microwave generation that everybody wants it overnight. Mm-hmm. It's hard. Your level, I'll say this, when you ask God for something or you want something in your life, the level that you ask God for the thing for is the level that the devil or whoever your opposition is going to be. Yeah. It's going to be as hard as you want. So if you want this, you're going to face something, your opposition just as hard. True. Just like you playing Madden, Tim. If you want to be the best, you put Tim, what's the rating on, what's the highest level on Madden you can play to, Tim?
I mean, the hardest settings on Madden, but 99 overall the best.
So no, what's the hardest setting on Madden? I'm talking about the settings. All Madden. So yeah, I remember that. I ain't played video games in a long time, but All Madden, bro, you can't even score on All Madden. Bro, you really, Tim, you got to put in a lot of time. You really got to put in a lot of time to get past, a lot of productive time to get past the opposition to get to the place you want to go.
So then the question is, if it takes time, if it takes prep, if it takes work, if it takes exercising your muscles, who's the opposition? The guy in the window or the guy in the mirror? See, I've gotten away from looking at I got away from looking at competition as somebody else. If I can match the dude in the mirror, that's all I got to do.
That's
the guy in the mirror. Worry about that dude. Exercise his muscle, impact his intellectual capital, impact his heart. Everybody else will move out the way. When Steph Curry shoots 1,000 3-pointers a day in practice, there is no defender. He's trying to perfect himself. No one else. So don't look out the window and see what's going on outside of your home. Look in the mirror and perfect the guy or the girl in the mirror.
Speaking of Steph Curry,
what did I do? What did I do? My bad, Tim. What did I do? What did I do?
He's getting scary.
Getting, but I hear you.
I mean, listen, I'm going to say this. I haven't felt that fear since Michael Jordan. I watched him play against the Pelicans the other night. And I've never seen LeBron, KD, Kawhi, James Harden. I never seen a defense just say to themselves, he's just going to score 40.
Yeah.
Like the defense had already conceded that we can't do any. Listen.
How you defend the 90s Bulls? Jordan do whatever he wants. Guard everybody else. Guard everybody else.
Listen.
Guard everybody else.
I would argue that Curry's offensive package, I don't know who has the greatest offense. I said Kyrie. Steph is making me question that now.
I got you.
And I think it's 3 players that I could say with the greatest offensive package. I'll go Kyrie, Steph, and James Harden. Jordan's an honorable mention.
No KD? Back up. You said Jordan was an honorable mention. You're not just going to throw that out there and just walk away from it like it was a landmine in the elevator.
I'm just talking about offensive package. See, I know what I think KD offensive package isn't extensive. It's he's 6'11". He can come off the down screen, hit you with the mid range. He can hit you with the 3. Kyrie
and finish at
Kyrie,
the rim.
Harden,
and finish at the rim.
And Steph. Oh, of course he can. He's 6'11" though.
But we
gotta give him that though.
He can't help being 6'11". He just uses it.
I know he can't help it, but what I'm saying, he's a 6'11" monster. What I'm saying, these guys are magicians.
No, that's fair.
That's what I'm saying.
That's fair.
The wizardry in these guys' game is unbelievable. Let me go here before we go to our other topic. But I want to talk about this, the NBA Finals. I want to say this, and I want to make this declaration right now, and I want to be clear about this. The NBA, if y'all listen to me, somehow if y'all see this, KD and LeBron in the finals, there's nobody else that needs to be in the finals. I need a healthy Brooklyn Nets. I need a healthy LA Lakers. Okay. I don't want anything else, anybody else in this finals. Okay. It cannot be. Keegan, I don't want to see Dame. I don't want to see Jokic. I don't want to even see Zion. I don't want to see nobody. I want to see Luka. I don't want to see Embiid. I don't want to see anybody but LeBron and KD on the court together.
Why is that?
Because this is going to tell us right now. It's going to tell us who truly is the best of our generation. Because KD would have beat LeBron 3 times in a row, and LeBron win this. Listen, all the Jordan errors, all the Jordan guys got to stop talking. Because if you beat this team right here, there's nothing else to say about LeBron. And if KD beats LeBron, then I'm gonna stop blaming KD from going to Golden State. I ain't gonna blame him no more for going to Golden State.
I hear you. Well, I'll say this: marketing wise, you don't want nobody else in the finals. Marketing wise, talent wise, I agree there too. You don't want nobody else in the finals because Golden State without Klay Thompson is not Golden State, right? So, because that's the original Golden State.
So do you? Let me go here then. Do you think what about when Klay Thompson comes back?
There will be this year. He's not going to be the same person this year. He needs time even to get back on the court.
So when he come back next year,
I think next year they're gonna be a different squad.
Can they still win the championship?
I think so. You can't. I think you go to these absolutions.
I do.
Right? So here's my point. Did they win it before with Steph, Clay, and Draymond?
And in 2017, who did they go get?
But no, my point is, no, don't change the question. The question was with Steph, Clay, and Dre. Did they win a championship?
They did.
Now they had an assortment of good accessories. Iguodala, they had Sean Livingston. I get that, but they won a chip. They won a chip. So
and Kyrie was hurt too. And Kevin Love. Am I right? I'm just being honest. They were both hurt.
So now Kevin Love is all okay.
Back then, not the Kevin Love right now.
We're not going to talk about what's been said outside the podcast. I'm not going to go there. So because you get to him, but I ain't going to go there. The question was when he comes back in the winning channel. My point is, yes, they can. Now, will there's a different conversation, but they do have the arsenal. Add some pieces to compete for that. Even with the Brooklyn Nets, even with LA doing what they're doing, they can compete. Now the question is, can they actually win it? That remains to be seen.
Who's your favorite player in the league, Keegan?
I don't have one.
Who's your team?
I don't have one.
You don't have a team?
I like the sport.
I like from New York. You from? Come on now.
No, I like the sport. Well, New Jersey don't have a team no more. Y'all still.
So were you a New Jersey fan?
At one time, yeah.
Who's your favorite New Jersey Net?
I would have to say, I can't say player, but that kid Kittles. That kid Kittles and Kenyon Martin combination was pretty tough. They went to the finals.
They had Vince Carter and Jason Kidd was there, wasn't he?
So I think
Jason Kidd went to the finals.
Yeah, Kidd went to the finals
because we swept y'all.
It was Kidd, Kittles, and I think it was Martin.
Yeah,
but I don't think Vince wasn't with.
No, Vince wasn't. No. I don't know if Vince was there yet, but I know he played for the Nets.
Yeah, but he wasn't there then. I don't think. No,
we swept y'all 4-0.
Yeah.
I mean, so why you not a Brooklyn Net? Kept me understand that. Because I feel like this cap.
Because I don't follow teams like that. I love the sport now.
Gotcha.
Because back in the day when I used to follow basketball like that, I was a Trailblazer guy because I didn't like Jordan, right? So I followed the Trailblazers, kind of like Clyde Drexler, right? So I did follow teams back then, in terms of. But now, I love Kevin Garnett as a player when he was in his prime. Now it's just more about I love the sport, right?
So you was a Kevin Garnett guy.
Yeah,
he was the first super team guy.
Yeah. There we go.
I ain't gonna say the first super team guy, but he was a super team guy.
Stop acting like James Worthy, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Byron Scott wasn't a super team.
I'm glad you admit that, old head.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest.
I'm glad you admit that.
That's where it started. The Celtics, you can't have 4 All-Stars on your starting 5 and not claim that you are a super team, even back then.
Why won't old heads let the new guys, like you see, you got Dr. J speaking out, you got Charles Oakley speaking out about Zion, you got Dr. J speaking about LeBron, and you got a lot of old guys. It's like the baton, they won't hand the baton off, and it matriculates too down the barbershop conversation sometimes. But why won't old heads let the game of basketball evolve?
I say this, the game was completely different back then. You ain't got to agree because that's a fact, right? It was different. So I think when you play in a different arena in terms of how the game was called, how it was structured, it was a big man game back then. Now it's not a big man game anymore. The game is a little bit different. That don't mean it's worse or better. It just means it was different. It's hard for people to see how the different game is better than when they played. That's one. The second thing I'll say is the young folks claim victory and claim that today's players are absolutely better than anybody back in the day. You can't make that claim.
It sound like you was coming at me right now.
Yeah, well, you do. Let's keep it a full beam.
So who do I say absolutely? Go ahead. Go give me an example. No, you're not going to just put that out there.
I'm going to give you 3
Give me an
names.
example.
You will claim LeBron James, KD, and James Harden are better than anybody else ever, and it's like it's not even close.
No.
You just said on tape that Jordan would be an honorable mention
offensive package.
Offensive package.
He would be. Listen, bro, you got to understand offensive package. Jordan, listen, let's go ahead and say this. Jordan,
you got to snap. You got to snap back on right 2K, now. You're capping.
No, on 2K, Jordan dribbling is a 58 at best right now. Everybody can handle the rock right now. Jordan was not a great ball handler. He was not. Scottie Pippen was the main ball. He was a point forward. So that's a buck.
So I'm gonna move KD.
So I'm gonna keep going.
No, you're right. So I'm gonna move KD at the conversation. You say 6'11". Name one player you will liken to Jordan has a back to the basket game like Jordan had.
No.
My point is you don't require a dribbling package back in that.
No, I'm not even talking. Dribbling was only one thing. I think Jordan he didn't shoot the 3 ball well. He did not shoot the 3-ball well.
No, he got better at that.
He got better at it.
He got
He
better at
did
that shot. He got better at that
everything else. What I'm saying is everything else Jordan. I'm just saying these guys have so much that they've added to their game that Jordan, maybe if he was in this era, would probably be able to add that to his game. I'm just talking about what is. And James Harden could do everything. Jordan wasn't a great assist guy. We know that.
I don't see James Harden. Hold on. I don't see James Harden having the back of the basket game. I don't see it.
He can. He don't have to.
I don't see it. Let's not.
It's not that he's not capable though.
We don't know. You don't know that. He don't do it.
He has done it.
He don't do it.
He don't have to. What I'm saying.
Well, okay. But my point is,
Kyrie got one.
But did you bring up George's dribbling skills? Did you not?
Yeah, I did. But
So
what I'm saying,
he didn't need
but what
that.
I'm saying
He
is
didn't need
Jordan.
that.
What I'm saying is Jordan. I ain't saying Jordan couldn't dribble. I'm just saying that Jordan couldn't dribble better than he ain't have a better handler than James Harden.
Nobody's arguing that point.
Okay.
He didn't need that. Just like you're just saying Harden don't need to have a back of the basket game.
Well, that's a good point. I'll give you that.
It's the same argument.
But what I'm saying that. So let's go here.
No, but hold on before you move any further.
Go ahead.
Right, don't do that. The question was about why do old heads not give the baton?
Absolutely.
And my only point is, I think the resistance is around the absolution that young people say that today's stars are completely.
You guys
better.
did it with Jordan. The Jordanification of the league. You guys would not let Jordan not be the best. LeBron James is clearly just a better basketball player than Jordan. He don't have the aura. He don't have the aura that Jordan has. Jordan's my GOAT because of the aura, because of the whole picture. The whole picture, not half of the picture. But LeBron James just on the court, pound for pound, controlling the game. There's nothing like LeBron James on that court. And everybody knows that. So I'm just saying from that aspect, but nobody would have that conversation back in 13 and 14 and 15. We thought of it as blasphemous to have that conversation when it wasn't.
So that's a great point. So I think if you want to say just pure what we see as far as pure talent and developed skills, I would say LeBron, KD, and you can argue James Harden just from a skill and talent perspective.
And IQ.
Now see, really,
James Harden ain't got high IQ?
I ain't say you don't have high IQ. But let me finish my point.
Go ahead.
You can argue they're better than Jordan, right? Then here's what y'all do. Y'all bring in production. Right? Do y'all not bring in production?
Does production matter?
I say it does.
Okay.
But here's my point. Here's why you lose the argument. The man won 3 of 3, left, came back, won 3 of 3. That's hard to argue against. He averaged at a time where it was a big man league. You had point guards running the show. He averaged 30, over 30.
Mark Price, Deadlift Shrimp, Jeff Hornacek. You want me to keep going? Russell. Below average athletes compared to today's athletes. But you can go off.
To your point, everybody was appropriate for that day and time, were they not?
Jordan was ahead of his time. Jordan was 20 years ahead of his time. But let's keep that above.
But the talent was appropriate.
Russell Westbrook does the same thing in the 90s. Russell Westbrook does the same thing in the 90s. These are if he putting up triple doubles. If he putting up these, Russell Westbrook does the same thing. I don't know if Russell Westbrook got the same mentality Jordan got. The same mentality.
Okay.
Now, is Russell Westbrook Jordan was a little more controlled in his mentality. He was a little more cerebral.
In his game.
Yeah. So, and he could shoot way better. Not even close. But the mentality was the same. Would he win the same amount of championships? Let me walk that back. No, he wouldn't.
Okay.
I'm not going to disrespect Jordan like that.
But I'm answering the question that you raised in terms of why don't they pass the baton. I think we got to stop doing the whole they're better than anybody else ever, because I'm going to tell you, Steve Coleman made the best point I've ever heard about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Scoring leader in history, of course, with 1 3-pointer. You can't argue against that. That's a fact. You can't argue against that, right?
He was also 7-1. And he was also playing. You gotta listen. Here's what we want to do before we go to our next point. We want to paint the whole picture.
Okay.
We don't want to paint half of the picture. Yes, he didn't shoot 1 3, but everybody was half his size.
But don't keep it up.
Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, and then
when you argue that point with Wilt, that's true. Everybody has to say. But there was other 7-footers in the league. When Kareem played.
But it wasn't the batch that you see now. Like now, everybody's 6'10", 6'9". Now you can find anybody in the.
And they all want to be guards. And they all want to be guards.
I'm not arguing that point. I'm just saying the size wise, it was a size difference. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a dog, so I'm not gonna disrespect that.
That's my only point in terms of your question, because I think when you make the point about better ball players, because the game evolves.
It does.
Like you would have never thought you would have had a 6'11" dude handling the rock like a guard. Of
course.
Back in the 90s. It just we wasn't thinking about
Magic
that
Johnson.
because 6'9", 1, and 2, his handles were not like stellar. Right? His handles. I'm not saying he can't pass the ball, he can't handle right. His handles were not like that. Okay. My point is, a 6'11" guy back then, no, you wouldn't have saw it. So the game has to evolve. I'm with you there. And I think as far as talent and skill, they are better. But when you add in production and what's being done, you can say who they played against, doesn't matter. He got 3 out of 3, left the game, and got 3 out of 3. I wasn't a Jordan fan. I was an Eras fan, not a Jordan fan. And you can't argue against that.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not arguing against it. I'm talking.
But I do agree with you as far as like talent and skill.
I think that Jordan is the prototype. There's nothing like him. There will be nothing like him. I don't think the atmosphere that he created is unbelievable. And I said this on the podcast before, and I'll always pay homage to that. But speaking of painting, we talk about painting the whole picture. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about, let's kind of give an oversight or just an overview. Keegan, I want to kind of, ask you a few questions and talk about what did the black man journey begin in America? Like, where did we start? Because what I want to do is paint the whole picture. I don't want to just say, everybody did us wrong. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say we the victim to everything. Yeah. I don't want to do that. But I want to put everything in context. So this can be a building block from where we go from here, mm-hmm. and some of the subject that we embark upon. So talk about that a little bit. What did our history start here in America, and tell us, some of the things that we went through, how we got here.
Yeah. So I'll start with this, because I think I hear a lot of people talk about things and you be like, where that info came from. So I want to be clear, I'm not a historian, right? I've done my own research for myself, my own personal consumption, based on what I want to know, right? So I'm going to talk from a biased perspective because I'm a black man.
Absolutely.
And I don't make no bones about it, right? So
hell yeah.
I'm not going to speak about it from anybody else's perspective but my own. So, and I'm not going to go into any real detail, but let's just go back to where we know the problem started in this country was slavery.
Gotcha.
Right. And ever since then, there has been a particular strategy at every century, at every decade, to keep us in that particular status.
Correct.
Right? So we can look at it from start to finish. Even in today's world, it exists.
Correct.
Right? And so when you start talking about the journey, slavery, then you go through peonage, and you go through Jim Crow, then you go through debt slavery, then you go through, that's like before Jim Crow, then Jim Crow, then you come through the civil rights era, and then you come after that, integration and all this stuff. You're still being hunted to put you in that same box as slavery. So I don't think anything has really, I don't want to say anything hasn't changed. I don't want to say that. I want to sound too nuts. But the same tactics that led to our plight then are being exercised now. Right? It's just different tools being used, and so for me, when I think about the journey, it's been problematic in this country. We have come out of slavery. We have come through debt slavery. We have come through peonage. We have come through.
Explain to people what debt slavery is.
So debt slavery was something where a plantation owner will figure out a way to make you as a servant of his or worker of his, create a debt. And if you can't pay the debt, which most people couldn't, because you created it a certain way and charge interest, you had to be enslaved to pay off your debt on that person's property, whether it be a plantation or whether it be their home, coming and working their home as a field hand, whatever it might be. And you were pretty much enslaved even after slavery was supposed to be over. It was called debt slavery. It was also called peonage as well, peonage. You also, a situation where you own debt, you can be put in jail. Right?
Really?
So jailing became a debt slavery play. If you owe somebody money, that's where all your prototype laws came from, where loitering became a jail defense.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
Not having a job became a jail defense, right? To put you in a prison system at that point in time, which used your labor to build this particular country. So we came through all that after slavery, right? It wasn't before, it was after slavery ended. Then you had Jim Crow. Right, so back up, mass incarceration started way back when.
That's what, because that's what we want to really.
Yeah. Mass incarceration didn't start.
So tell me, because mass incarceration has been the lifeblood of how black men has been disintegrated in our culture, keeping us away. Because what if you're incarcerated, you're away from what? Your family.
Your family.
And if then you don't, in a strong black family, in a strong family in any culture, is the cornerstone of growth and economic growth.
Yeah.
Tell me about mass incarceration.
So I would say there's 2 points to you, what you just said. There's a qualitative point with mass incarceration, i.e. pulling you out of your family and breaking that family up. There's a quantitative element to it, meaning you can't build wealth if you're in jail.
That's facts.
Right? So I'm also going to hit you economically by doing that as well. Okay. But mass incarceration, they kind of put it under Nixon and Reagan with the whole drug war to say that we're going to create laws and strategies to go after black men, incarcerate them so that we can start controlling this particular population, right? And getting them so that they can't actually thrive, break up the family. That hurts the child, hurts the wife, makes the wife dependent upon the system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also create a stigma around black men being criminals on top of criminals on top of criminals. But there was tactics with that. You know, it wasn't just like they just did it. They put in laws, right? So, you know, you have charges for marijuana that equal the same kind of charge for cocaine or crack. That's just ludicrous.
It's ridiculous.
When somebody who's out here committing murder and rape goes away for a few years, pay their dues, come back, get paroled, etc. So those things were put in place strategically through political power, right? Not through economic power, although that was used too. Political power, right? So we was targeted in that regard. Women were too, if you want to know the truth.
That's facts.
The women's prison system is actually growing, well, was, if I remember my numbers correctly, about 5 years ago, was growing at a faster rate than the men's population was.
Wow.
You know, so in black and brown women, right? So they were also targeted as well for that particular purpose. Is any way you can ravage a culture, you're going to do it. But mass incarceration is also a segregation play as well, right? So I get you. So if you think about segregation, we created a system, not we, but they created a system where blacks was over here and whites were over here. We pushed for integration, right? So when we integrated, what we never really integrated was economically, right? We went and bought their Kool-Aid and didn't come buy ours, right? So we have a disconnect there. So any way you can actually segregate the population through economics, you're going to do it. Gentrification, GI bills to allow white folks to buy homes that black people couldn't. That helps you move out of the neighborhood where the black folks are at. It's still segregation.
Yeah.
All right. So now, if I can pull one person out of this household, because to me, wealth starts with a combined unit. Correct. A husband and wife. That's where wealth starts, right? So if I can pull one person out of that particular unit, I decapitate at the knees this family's ability to actually earn income.
That's facts.
If I can do that, I now put the black man in a prison system. He is segregated from society, from his family, and from everybody else's society. And I'm going to make that woman be put in a situation where she can never earn her way into an integrated area.
It's facts.
She got to stay in poverty unless something else happens, right? So that's why I say mass incarceration led to a lot of segregation as well with black people, because it kept that going as far as segregation went. It's not just integration. It was not integrative.
And mass incarceration, looking at it, it crippled us from an emotional standpoint. Mm-hmm. When you take us out of our homes, when you take us away from the comfort of our wife and our children, you lose the ability to understand your emotions, because essentially you're putting people in a cage. Yeah. And when you put somebody in the cage, they act like what? Animals. You're not going to act like anything else. You're going to act like an animal. Mm-hmm. And it's not. And it's when you're in a prison system, it's not to rehabilitate you.
No.
They're making money.
Yeah.
Cheap labor. Mm-hmm. Cheap labor.
No question.
So, and when you look at that and you go throughout the history, and we just came to giving a brief overview, when you're given the history of all these things that happened to us, they happened to us. Mm-hmm. They did. Mass incarceration, slavery, watching our women being raped in front of us, mm-hmm. watching us get raped, watching our women watching us get raped in front of them. People don't talk about that a lot.
Yeah,
that happened, emasculating us. That happened to us. But Keegan, there's another side to the story. Just because something's not your fault does not mean it's not your responsibility to fix it.
I agree.
And what I say about that is always, Keegan, it don't matter what you do to me. And no matter how wrong you are to do to me, how wrong what you do to me, guess what's going to happen? I got to fix my life. You gone.
Yeah.
You don't care. Listen, you don't care about what's going on in my life. Yeah. So I have to fix it. Where do we stand in terms of, because I want people to know what the deep surface is about, what we're talking about, what we want to be about. Where do we stand? Where's our responsibility as black men in this culture, in this society, knowing full well, understanding everything that's happening, that has happened to us? Where's our responsibility? Where does our responsibility come in at?
So that's a layered question. I'll try to tackle a couple of points from my perspective. And I'm gonna speak from my own experience as well, because I'm not, like I said, my background is not in certain areas where I can speak about it from a psychological perspective. Economically, I think it's important that we start taking back ownership of our dollar, right? Good. So you hear stats about the dollar stays in the Hispanic community, the Asian community, the Jewish community, the Middle Eastern community longer than any other communities out there, right? I will stay in our community for a couple of hours. We have to change that, right? So I think getting control of our own dollar, meaning if you can choose a service provider, choose a black person if it makes sense. And I ain't talking about going out here trying to find black grocery stores. We know Walmart. We can't do that, right? How about have a black doctor, a black dentist, a black real estate agent, a black CPA, a black insurance agent? Choose black service providers that you can make decisions on so that you can put your dollar back in their business so they can continue to circulate that money throughout our culture. Start there. That's one. I think the second piece is, as responsible people, we be responsible. And that means understanding what the landscape looks like. People can be wrong, but you can't put yourself in a position to where their bad behavior costs you something.
It's good.
And that means that we can be as free as we want to in certain decisions and certain behaviors. Is it right? No.
Gotcha.
But you can't change the landscape. You can only handle what you can control until we can change the landscape.
Yep.
Right. So I would say, let's be responsible in our decisions and our behaviors. Right. And I know that sounds wrong because, well, they're doing stuff to us that is wrong. I agree wholeheartedly.
Of course.
Right. But I can't change those cards. I can only do what I've been dealt. Right. So I got to be as responsible as I possibly can. So we talk about this in the movie American Skin. I remember what he told his son. That movie was. It was. If you haven't seen American Skin, people, go check it out. Go check it out.
Go look at it. Is it Nate Parker?
Nate Parker, yes, sir.
Tim, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. But his son said, we told his son, get pulled up by the cops, all that law shit, you think you're right, throw it out the window. Do exactly what the cop says. So, in fact, what we're telling our kids, I told my son the same thing. If he requires you to do stuff that you know you should not be doing, if he speaks to you in a very, very wrong way, calls you out your name, calls you a nigga, all that, take it. Because I need for you to get home.
What's the psychological damage to that?
I think as long as we articulate the right way to the children and teach them the reasons why. Don't just say do it. Show them the reasons why. I think it might make sense.
So it don't limit their value.
No.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying you are less than. I'm saying that I want you to just operate in the way that he's going to get you home. Because here's the deal. Now, bro, I can afford an attorney. I can afford a lawyer, right? So I can take his ass to court. Yeah, I can fight that fight.
Because economically in this country, when you can speak speak that economic language, then now all of a sudden you can't do everything you were doing to me.
Exactly. Or you can. It's going to be a consequence now.
Yes, it will be.
I got commas in my account now.
That's the only thing that speaks loud in this country.
Because when you think about the prison system and how it works from a law enforcement perspective, from a legal perspective, judicial perspective, the reason why you have so many black people in jail is because they can't afford attorneys. Many of them can't even afford to make bail.
Public defender.
You get a PD. He got 46 cases a day. His job is to get you plead the fuck out so he can get you in jail so he can move to the next one.
That's facts.
Plain and simple. We laughing, but that's how the system works.
Yes.
That's how it works. It's meant to be a revolving door for us. So if I tell my son, look, I got dough to actually get an attorney so we can fight this. He wants to call you a nigga, let him call you a nigga. What you can record. But get home. Because see, I'd rather go in that courtroom than go in that funeral home.
Yeah, because when you go in that funeral home, you go in there one time,
wrap.
it's a dub.
It's a wrap, right?
It's a dub.
And then I get pulled out of my skin at that particular point.
And
right?
then here's the dichotomy, and here's the almost the mind blowing thing about this is there's so many people who try to do the right thing and it still happen.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to, you know, our last point before we wrap it up. It's us being centered in God, because that's the only help. There's no other help for me. And everybody may have their own look, their own way on what they believe.
Well, actually, Steve, I want to take a privilege here.
Okay, go ahead.
We got one more point we got to start doing.
Go ahead.
We got to start building our own political candidates.
Let's go there for a second then.
Yeah, we got to start doing that. I'm not even going to talk about current president.
See, I threw that in there. You said I threw that in there. Go ahead.
But what I would say is just about every candidate in Senate and Congress at the federal level, locally in each state, governorships, even city councilmen, they have to get funding from somewhere. Wherever their funding comes from is who their puppet master is. We got to start working together to get our own candidate.
That's facts.
And not to control the person, but to control what we want done for us in Congress, in the Senate, locally, in the State House, and in D.C. So
why have we stayed away from the inner workings of politics as a whole community? Why is the education, and I'm not going to say that for everybody, but politically, we don't deal a lot. We kind of shun that a little bit as a collective.
So I'll answer it from this perspective. I think that is the presumption is this education, because people want to say that black folks don't understand politics. You go back to the 60s, our parents,
our
grandparents, they understood politics. Today's youth, they're a little bit detached, but I'll tell you why. You can't play checkers while they're playing chess.
That's facts.
So here's the deal. If you can't use your dollar to get in the game, you're not gonna play the game.
That's facts.
It's a dollar's game, right? So when you have somebody who's funding $500,000, you have a PAC that's funding $500,000 to put the candidates up. We're not doing that because we don't have the dough to do that. Go back to the economic conversation. Economics keeps you at a lot of different conversations. It keeps you at a lot of different tables, right? One of them is politics. So I would say education is secondary to the economic tool that we need to actually start getting our own candidates in city council, in county council, in state legislature. We got to start using our money to work on that particular front. Because I think it's not just education.
Yeah, and I think we'll be able to articulate that through different episodes, through different parts that we do, and kind of break that down to a science, and help people in the best way we can, but also having some fun too as well, man.
No question.
I had fun with you today, my guy.
Likewise, bro. We always do.
Man,
we always do.
Listen, man. The deep surface. I'm telling you, man. We going here. We gonna build a media company. We're gonna build a production company. We're gonna be great. I'm speaking these things. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you. Follow us. It's gonna happen, man. And not because we so special, man, because we chosen. I believe we're chosen for a moment like this. I believe my voice. I know my voice is used by God. I submitted my voice to God, bro. And it ain't from a religious perspective. It's just from a God perspective. Yeah. And man, I want to see everybody. And I know it's so cliche to say I want to see everybody win, but I want to see everybody realize their own reality. I want to see everybody discover their own perspective. Everybody be able to walk in their own light. Man, we were put here for a reason. Amen. Whatever that reason is,
you got to find out.
You got to find out.
But you have purpose.
And there's a process, and I want to help everybody with that process by showing people that black heroism is in our community. Stop looking at the media. I don't care, Democrat, Republican, who else. Look at people you see every day. We're people you can touch, feel, and see. I like Stephen A. He said one thing. He said, "You may not can be this, but you can be me. You may not can be LeBron James. You can do that, but you can work hard and do something. If you got something you want to do, put the work in. But we got to stop telling people to put the work in and help them out.
That's true.
We got to have a collective investing in people.
No
We got to
question.
start being angel investors.
Yeah.
We got to start helping people. We got to start releasing our dollar to our people and realize that when you put it in good ground and good seed, then it'll come back up. That's biblical, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
You
Yeah.
put it in good. Stop being Stop hoarding everything. Help people. Give people stuff. Give people opportunities to be successful. Stop doing that to people. That's our biggest issue. It ain't just the black dollar. It's the fact that we hoard it. Like, I'm gonna hoard all of this. No. People, you invest your money, you're going to make money. Then sometimes you're going to lose money. But you got to do it. But start investing in your people. Be involved in their projects if you don't think they're going to give you the return on your investment. Be involved with it. You know, that's what collectively as a group that's going to raise our status economically so we can start having more political capital and laws that change. Okay, I'm taking my dollar away from you. You're going to do this.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, and I would tell you too, most young business owners, they don't want money. They want clients.
Facts.
They want to sell their good or service so they can make a buck, so they can earn the buck. So they don't just want money. They want clients. They want education. They want wisdom. They want experience. Help them with those opportunities, because the dollar is one thing, but I'd rather you give me a client, not money, because the client will pay for the good service. I will get the money if I get the client.
That's
I can
facts.
create a referral system, right? So that's what I'm looking for, is opportunity with clients and prospects, not just money.
Absolutely.
Money is one play.
Money is a byproduct of.
Yeah.
I think.
But I'm talking about black. That's about
The black dollar.
Choose the black business owner to spend your money with when you can make a choice.
And it's not that you hate spending money with other people, because not what we're saying. We're saying that there's an economic disadvantage right now with black owners and black businesses, that we don't get enough of the dollar back into our community, that if you spend it with us, we can start to raise our revenue in certain areas. We can start to raise those things. We can start to do a lot of things that we want to do. We can start to being more mobile in our businesses as well. So that's what I think you're talking. You're not talking.
Well, you're correct, but I think my question would be to that is, why can everybody else say I don't want to talk, or I don't want to spend money with a black person because I don't like him, but we can't. Right, so I would suggest.
I ain't gonna disagree with that.
Hey, I would suggest, because I have other people from other cultures who are clients of mine for what I do, right, in the insurance and financial services business, and I have very few of them. But I can tell you the majority of them choose their own because two things: one, they value their own, and they don't value you from that perspective. So I don't have a problem saying that. Hey, I'm gonna think the same way. I think, and I used to think this way. I used to take on this dynamic that I don't want to speak ill of nobody else, right? And I'm still that way. But for some reason, everyone else can speak ill of us.
And I think we be gracious in that. I think because we know our power. We're extraordinary. We're extraordinary, and I think we understand our power when it comes to that. But I want to say this, Keegan, before we wrap it up, man. I want to continue to have meaningful conversations. That's what moves the world.
Yes.
Media has moved the world to an idea to believe that black men don't take care of the kids. Black men don't do this. Black men don't do that. We're this and that. And it's seeped into our own psyche.
Yeah.
And we believe it now. Subliminally, my everyday life ain't believing that. But I can notice subtle things about inferiority will make you do certain things at certain times.
Yeah.
Make you talk to certain people certain ways. Code switching.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. It's subconscious.
It's subconscious. It is.
Yes.
So, and again, man, I want to make sure that on this podcast we do the right things, and we got a surprise for you guys too. On the next podcast, we're gonna add a little wrinkle to the podcast as well. But that's coming up. But man, I want to appreciate all the viewers for really sticking with us. We really want to continue to bring you guys the best content. We want to continue to show you guys that we care and that we want you to be a part of our journey, because we're going to evolve. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to get better at them. And we're going to keep moving forward, because that's what the name of the game is. I always appreciated shows and sitcoms and imagery that lasted for a long time, because it had something to give to the culture. And I want to be that. And we can't do that without you guys. So I want you guys to come subscribe now to the Deep Surface. Used to be formerly the Steve Joe, but now the Deep Surface. I want you guys, we'll have different things out for that. But I also want you guys to engage with us. Let us know that what you want to hear. What are some pressing issues you want to hear? We'll talk current events. We'll still deal with sports. We'll still different how it connects to life. We'll still deal with the political ramifications that we suffer from right now. Yeah. We'll deal with a lot of stuff, Keegan. Keegan, let me give you a little round table. What you got before we go, man?
Just to wrap up, I'm going to go back to thanking Joe for what he did, and how he partnered with us. But now thanking Tim for what he's doing and going to do for us as well.
Appreciate that, Tim.
Really appreciate you, bro, coming through.
This nigga eyes almost. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you to Tim for working with us in this regard. And I would say to the people, we're going to keep coming to you with truth to power, truth to lies, and truth for you. And so, and I would say, yeah, we're going to be biased. I'm just going to be honest with you. I used to kind of you scared of that word. I'm going to be biased.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to be biased for us, and we always say it, Steve, pro-black is not equivalent to anti-white.
It's not.
Or anti-anything else. But it is pro-black. And so we're going to speak to it from that perspective. That's
and I'll give you another example, too, before we go. My kids, I'm going to keep it a buck. I love my nephews and nieces, I do, but I don't love them more than I love my kids. I ain't anti-nephew and niece, but I love my kids. Amen. And I'll do anything for my kids. Amen. There is no question you can ask me right now to say, hey, Steve, what level when you go to for there's no level, even unto death.
Yeah.
So, I think if we adopt that attitude and be unapologetically black, and it's a beautiful thing. Our black women, our black men, beautiful people, man. I love congregating with them, and I want to serve my people from a Christ perspective too. So I want to thank everybody for joining us, man. We got a lot coming at you guys, man. Branding, all type of things. We want to bring so much to you guys, man. It's the Deep Surface coming at you guys. I appreciate you watching us, man. And we got a surprise for you next episode. Let's go.
Take care, brothers and sisters.
See ya.
I'm handsome, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat. They know it.
Pure exhilaration, feel it when you leave the earth. 100% adrenaline rush is what we know it's worth. If not